Breaking news, one person is dead after being hit by a vehicle on Redwood Road in Salt Lake City. Now at 9, we have a crew live on the scene.
Gun violence in Utah and the desperate effort to stop it. Tonight, both sides of the debate say they want the same thing, where they've come together and where they're still divided.
We've had a Valentine's Day winter storm, but just wait, there's more in store. We'll have the forecast coming up.
A plane makes an emergency landing on Bangerter Highway in the middle of rush hour. What police say went wrong.
A family story recreated, a Utah landmark as the backdrop, and a story about love on Valentine's Day.
Bryce Canyon is just like the most romantic place in the world in my brain because that's where my grandparents met. So I'm like, there must be something magical going on down there.
Why this proposal is more than about saying yes.
We start Fox 13 News at 9 with breaking news tonight happening in Salt Lake City, where one person was killed when they were hit by a car.
It happened in the city's Rose Park neighborhood near 700 North and Redwood Road. Let's get right to Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree live on scene. Jenna, what do we know?
That's right, Bob and Kelly. Police tell me a 55-year-old man was crossing west at this intersection of 700 North and Redwood Road when he was hit and killed by a car. The man was walking in a crosswalk when this happened, but police say he was walking against the light. The driver who hit him stayed on scene and is cooperating with authorities. Detective Michael Ruff says this is the third fatal crash in Salt Lake City this year.
Obviously, pedestrian crashes are something that are a concern for us. So we would always encourage drivers to be aware of their surroundings, make sure they take a little extra time, especially when it's dark. And then if you're a pedestrian, don't assume someone's going to stop. Make sure you're watching out, make sure you're watching those traffic lights. And we all need to do a part to make sure everybody can get home safely.
Detective Ruff says this section of Redwood Road will be closed off for the next couple of hours. He asked that drivers please avoid this area so that officers can do their work here. Reporting live in Salt Lake City, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
We'll talk about a bizarre scene during the evening commute. Take a look here. A plane had to land on Bangerter Highway in South Jordan tonight, right around 5:40 p.m. Police say the plane was a single-engine Cirrus aircraft. Two men around 30 to 40 years old were on board. They were flying from the Phoenix area to the Ogden Metro Airport. Police say their engine malfunctioned. They were trying to land at the West Jordan Airport, but obviously, they were unable to make it. This incident shut down the highway for hours, but authorities have since towed the plane away. Miraculously, there was no damage to the aircraft, roadway, or any vehicles, and no one was hurt.
Wow. Salt Lake police are asking for your help to find whoever hit and killed a man with a truck and then took off. Happened Sunday night, January 15th. The suspect allegedly ran a red light on 700 East near 500 South and hit this man, 31-year-old Brandon Mayer, leaving him for dead. Detectives are looking for a smaller, dark-colored Chevy truck with front-end damage. Mayer's family is offering a $2,500 reward for information leading to the suspect's arrest. If you know anything that can help, call Salt Lake Police.
Gun violence is a seemingly unrelenting issue across the country as Americans process the 3 killed and 5 critically injured in a Michigan State mass shooting just last night. Today also marks 5 years now since the Parkland, Florida school shooting.
Meanwhile, a Salt Lake City community is mourning the murder of a 17-year-old allegedly by a 14-year-old boy.
Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser was on Utah's Capitol Hill today, where legislators from both sides of the proposed bills think there are solutions to the problem of youth gun violence.
On Monday night, a law enforcement and criminal justice committee rejected a bill that would have fined gun owners if their firearms were not safely secured, then stolen and used in a crime. Although that failed, 2 other gun-related bills on Tuesday night got the approval to head to the Senate.
Thanks. My name is Cynthia.
Gun restrictions and rights continues to be a hot topic on Utah's Capitol Hill as state lawmakers try to prevent more tragedies from happening here.
We have worked hard this session to address that issue. There are a number of bills that we are working through the House and Senate to address that issue.
First up in the Senate Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Committee, a bill that would require the Bureau of Criminal Identification to keep record of how restricted persons got their gun and give that data to the legislature.
It's basically a information gathering bill.
Representative Brian King's House Bill 86 was supported by the Gun Violence Prevention Center of Utah and the Shooting Sports Council.
And we think it'll offer important insights to better focus our efforts on something we all want to reduce is deaths.
There are few things that give me greater hope in the prospect of people across wide gulfs of ideology will be able to gather and join hands and accomplish great things.
The next bill didn't get the same bipartisan reaction. Representative Carrie Ann Lisenby proposed House Bill 107 to waive the concealed carry fee for educators.
We are encouraging teachers to harden the target, to carry on school grounds to protect students if they so choose.
Public comment was torn between whether it is a teacher's responsibility to carry.
I do not think we need to encourage or pressure teachers into thinking they need to be armed in classrooms.
I and essentially every other student I've ever had the pleasure of interacting with feel much more secure at our school. The more resources are poured into providing protection for students.
The firearm reporting requirement bill passed unanimously, and the bill to waive the concealed carry fee for educators that passed 2-1. Reporting at the Capitol, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Yeah, I would come back, bro.
You're seeing new body camera video. It shows first responders trying to rescue a 14-year-old who fell through the ice at Settlement Canyon Reservoir in Tooele last night, and a police officer falling through the ice himself. 2 firefighters also partially fell in. A dive team ultimately recovered the boy's body at about midnight. This afternoon, police identified the boy as Jaden Davis. He was a student at Tooele High School. Police say he was with an 18-year-old who also fell through the ice but was able to get out himself. Despite the tragic ending for Davis, his grandfather praised the first responders for their unrelenting efforts.
We kept expecting them to say, we're going to call the search off for tonight because of the weather and darkness. They wouldn't leave.
The Tooele County School District says a crisis team and counselors are available for students, faculty, and staff.
Cyclone Gabriel has swept through New Zealand, cutting off people living on the east coast of the North Island, including missionaries for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. One of those missionaries is Elder Logan Williams. His family and friends reached out to Fox 13 News after not hearing from him since late Sunday local time, Monday evening in New Zealand. His family tells us he and his companion from Australia, as well as 10 other missionaries serving on the North Island, have been cut off by damaged infrastructure.
We just want to talk to him, make sure that he's okay. And that's our main goal.
Like if we could just have an inkling of hope that he and his companion are okay, we can ride this out.
A spokesperson for the church told us they are working to get more information for all the families connected to these missionaries. They say the mission leaders were aware of the approaching storm and prepared supplies ahead of time.
Let's get to weather now. Take a look at this. A time lapse of snow falling. Guess where this is? You're never going to guess it. It's Zion National Park today.
Actually, it says it in the left-hand side of the screen. So if you didn't guess right.
Well, if it wasn't for that. Seriously, would you ever know where that was? Not a typical looking Zion National Park scene.
No. But what else can we expect? I mean, Utah's Weather Authority, Dina Friedman, is in for Allison tonight.
I didn't see that. I was reading.
Yeah, I know you were reading.
That's all right.
I know you were reading.
Yeah, we did get some snow today in southern Utah and terrible road conditions earlier on I-15. That was just a mess. Right now here in Salt Lake City, it's just cloudy. We've got the winds kicking up a little bit, 27 degrees currently and 25 in Ogden. The snow totals in southern Utah and a few lucky people got some good snow in northern Utah too. Alta at 6 inches, but southern Utah 5 inches here over in Hilldale, and near that in Kanab, Cedar City at around 4 inches of snow, and Holiday 1.5 inches. So southern Utah, you had a big snow squall earlier, went through with some big burst of heavy snow along I-15 by Cedar City, and now you can see things are just kind of winding down as the system pushes off to the east. But we did have some snow squall activity in northern Utah too around 2 to 3 o'clock. This moved over the East Bench area, and boy, was it coming down. Now it's cold behind this system, 27 in Salt Lake, 31 now in St. George, and 19 in Cedar City, and it feels much cooler than that. Now coming up, we've got still a lot of watches and advisories to talk about, especially with the wind. We'll keep you posted.
The Unified Police Department could be history in a few years if a bill on Utah's Capitol Hill becomes law. What Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera has to say about it.
A bombshell claim made in court today in the Gabby Petito-Brian Laundrie saga. A letter from Laundrie's mother is uncovered and may have her in hot water.
4 unidentified objects have been shot down over North America so far this month.
It is a concern.
A U of U professor shows us how these objects differ from the hundreds of weather balloons launched daily across the country.
The Utah Jazz will be well represented on NBA All-Stars Saturday. 4 players involved. I'll tell you who they are and which events they'll be participating in.
Welcome back, everyone. In national news, authorities have now identified the 3 Michigan State University students killed during a mass shooting last night. They are this right here. Their pictures: Brian Fraser, you first saw, Ariel Diamond Anderson, and then Alexandria Verner.
Our hearts are with the students and the families of Michigan State University. 3 lives have been lost and 5 seriously injured. And it's a family's worst nightmare.
As President Biden mentioned, 5 other students were hurt in the shooting. They have not been identified. The suspected shooter, a 43-year-old man with no connection to Michigan State, took his life shortly after the crime.
The NTSB continues to review video of the moments before a train derailed in rural Ohio. The train was carrying toxic chemicals on the day of the accident nearly 2 weeks ago. Residents were initially forced to evacuate. Most are back in their homes tonight. Ohio Governor Mike DeWine is calling on Congress to take action after learning the train was not classified as carrying hazardous material.
Frankly, if this is true, and I'm told it's true, this is absurd. We should know when we have trains carrying hazardous material that are going through the state of Ohio.
The cause of the crash remains under investigation. In a statement this week, regulators said they saw what appears to be a wheel bearing in the final stage of overheating failure moments before the derailment.
The studio behind the movie Rust says it will resume production in New Mexico this spring. This comes more than a year after cinematographer Helena Hutchins was killed on set when a prop gun discharged a live round. Star Alec Baldwin and the film's armorer are both currently facing involuntary manslaughter charges. Now, when production does resume, there will be additional crew members specifically responsible for safety. It's not unusual to finish movies even after a deadly accident does occur on set. It has happened with the movie The Crow, Twilight Zone the movie, and Midnight Rider.
California Senator Dianne Feinstein announced today she will not seek re-election. She will leave office at the end of her term in 2024. It marks the end of an era in Golden State politics. The 89-year-old Feinstein won her first election in 1969. She spent 6 decades in politics, with more than 30 of those years coming in the U.S. Senate. Several rising Democrats, including Adam Schiff and Katie Porter, have announced plans to run for Feinstein's seat.
The U.S. military has shot down 4 unidentified objects in North American airspace so far this month. The latest one was over Lake Huron in Michigan, which the military missed at first. Lawmakers in Congress received an intelligence briefing on the matter today.
These objects have been flying over us for years. What's different about the last 2 weeks is that we've started shooting them down.
Well, it is still unclear what the objects were or where they exactly came from, despite U.S. officials emphasizing Americans are not in danger. So we're curious, what could these mysterious objects be in our skies?
Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold took that question to a professor at the University of Utah today.
That's a bit of a concern because we have no idea what the other unidentified objects that they've shot down are.
Salt Lake resident Mary Caputo has been keeping a close eye on our skies.
It looks like a surveillance balloon.
This comes after a suspected Chinese spy balloon was taken down by a U.S. fighter jet off the coast of South Carolina earlier this month, as well as 3 unidentified objects last weekend.
This is our instrumentation classroom.
John Horrell is a professor and chair of the Department of Atmospheric Sciences at the University of Utah.
What we can tell is that they're not balloons that are launched for operational weather prediction. It's very unlikely that they're balloons that were carrying research instrumentation.
Horrell gave Fox 13 News a look.
This is the type of instrument package that is sent up underneath a balloon.
And what goes into making a weather balloon work.
This is actually the temperature sensors.
And soar to heights of 100,000 feet in the air.
We can inflate it with enough helium to be able to lift this.
Well, Horrell tells me the National Weather Service sends up a couple hundred balloons each day across the country that carry instrument packages.
This shows where all the balloons were launched from.
That even includes right here in Salt Lake.
Anybody can launch a balloon carrying an instrument package that weighs less than 6 pounds.
Horrell says anything heavier than that has to be approved by the FAA. While the objects being shot down in the northern hemisphere bring awareness to what's going on above us, those like Horrell and Caputo say the main thing now is to get more information about what exactly these things are.
We need to know what these kind of instrument packages that are being carried aloft.
I'm just kind of in a wait and see.
In Salt Lake, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Yeah, great story. You know, we use those weather balloons every day at Salt Lake. The National Weather Service launches those, and those initiate some of our models that we use to predict the weather. So there's definitely weather balloons that go up all over the United States and all over the world every day. So great piece of story there. All right, well, our sunset tonight is Valentine's Day, so of course there's a little bit of pink in the sky. Isn't that a nice one from Chris Williams tonight? Nice photograph there. 10 degrees now at Alta, 23 in Heber, and it's 21 in Draper and 27 in Salt Lake City tonight. So temperatures are a little bit cooler behind this system here. For a few of us, it's 31 now in St. George and 29 in Page. Interestingly enough, though, as that front has moved through, look at the 24-hour temperature change in Vernal. Because the cold air got mixed around, it's warmer. Wow, but it is 3 degrees cooler in Salt Lake, and it's 17 degrees cooler in St. George. So definitely much colder weather there. Our winter weather advisory, that's for the counties that you see here in purple. So we are still expecting more snow, especially a little bit tomorrow afternoon as that system moves about over to the east. And then in Salt Lake, the big story tonight is going to be some wind kicking up. We've got some northeast flow rolling in tonight. So we're going to have some wind events going on in Salt Lake and through western Utah as well. And the cold wind chill warnings for the Zion area, some of near St. George and over by Bryce Canyon for dangerously cold conditions. So lots of active weather still as the cold air really starts to settle in. Let's look at our wind forecast. This one's always fun to look at. You've got your 40 to 50 mile per hour range, and that's here in the pinks and oranges, and that's through tonight. So that timestamp is overnight. You can see some of that strong wind that we'll deal with tonight, 30 to 40 miles per hour. And then tomorrow throughout the day, it's all lit up. So we're going to have a breezy day, but that'll keep the air quality a little bit better. So, hey, there's that. Satellite image and radar shows this area of low pressure off to the south. Great looking picture here. You can see this twisty turning motion of that area of low pressure, and we had that squall band earlier in southern Utah with that area of low pressure. Now this is all moving off to the east. We'll still get a little bit of that wraparound moisture tomorrow, and that cold air will really start to funnel in tomorrow morning, and we'll really feel it on Thursday morning too. And then we're back to high pressure. Forecast snow totals generally not too much more, but some of our highest elevations in south central Utah could see around another 3 to 6 inches of snow. So overnight cold temperatures, a couple of stray snowflakes in the north, and a few scattered flurries in the south. 18 in Salt Lake tonight, 26 in St. George. Tomorrow, the clouds will decrease by the second half of the day, so we'll call it partly cloudy, up to 30 in Salt Lake City. And St. George, you've got pretty nice temperatures for you, around 50 by the time we get into the weekend, but still pretty cold tomorrow, around 41 and starting off in the 20s. For the Wasatch Front, you've got the wind and the breezy conditions, and we'll have a day of pretty clear air. And then as high pressure settles in, we'll still be back to that haze on Friday and Saturday. And then our next storm starts to really move into the forecast into next Monday and Tuesday and more into that Wednesday time frame. So a couple of cold mornings and expect some windy conditions tonight.
Thanks so much, Dina. The East High School student body is working on self-improvement this week, focusing on kindness. We'll show you what they're doing.
Plus, spreading a little love on Utah's Capitol Hill. Take a look here, why some Utah elementary students made a special trip today on Valentine's Day.
It is Kindness Week at East High School in Salt Lake City. During lunch today, students painted hundreds of rocks with positive messages and reminders to be kind. The rocks will be displayed all over campus.
What I wrote was, don't forget to love yourself. That's something that our generation usually likes to forget a lot.
More projects focusing on kindness and community will continue through the week. Tomorrow, it's a challenge to give someone a compliment. Thursday, students will get wristbands that say, be kind. And Friday, students will be urged to share an inspirational quote on social media with the hashtag East High Kindness Week.
I like it. It's going to be a good week. Children from all across the state were on Utah's Capitol Hill today for a very meaningful cause this Valentine's Day. Around 100 students made Valentines to give to legislators to express how much they love after-school programs. Now, some of the notes talked about how they were able to create strong bonds and relationships with their classmates, as well as with adults within the programs.
We have parents that are here as well talking about the deep impacts that after-school programs make for them in their lives, and knowing that they can work comfortably and they can work with the peace of mind knowing that their kids are safe after school between the hours of 2:30 and 6 p.m. when they're wrapping up their day. They don't have to rush home right away.
Yeah, it can make all the difference. If you're interested in learning about an after-school program in your area for your child, go to utahafterschool.org.
Basically backed into a corner by political forces, and there just is no easy path out.
The Salt Lake County Sheriff is reluctantly supporting a bill that will disband the Unified Police Department.
How the Boys and Girls Club is coping with the loss of one of their 17-year-old active participants after he was shot and killed by a 14-year-old over the weekend.
I think overall, as long as, we're prepared for it, I think it'll be a great weekend.
With hundreds of thousands expected in the City NBA All-Star Weekend, how the city is planning to address public safety concerns.
Celebrating love and Utah, how a love story 60 years ago inspired their granddaughter's proposal.
The Aggies looking for a bounce-back win tonight against Air Force. So I'll have the highlights.
The future of the Unified Police Department could be up in the air, all because of a bill in the works right now on Utah's Capitol Hill.
Salt Lake County Sheriff Rosie Rivera says she will reluctantly support a bill that would disband UPD. Fox 13 News reporter Ben Winslow has the story from Utah's Capitol Hill.
I have been put into a position, basically backed into a corner by political forces, and there just is no easy path out.
Sheriff Rivera says she will support a bill that disbands the Unified Police Department by 2025.
I chose not to oppose this bill because I have a responsibility to create long-term stability for public safety, and that's what I'm doing here today.
Representative Jordan Tusher's bill blocks the sheriff from her elected job and overseeing the Unified Police Department.
This issue continually comes up because there's a conflict of interest when there's a separate policing entity and the county sheriff that has county-wide views. So what this does is this resets everything, just like it was before.
The UPD was created in 2009. Over the years, cities in the Salt Lake Valley have jumped in and jumped out, which has led some to complain about the costs of policing and the quality of service. Representative Tusher says some communities who weren't part of it were still paying for it.
We had a real double taxation issue.
The Utah Sheriff's Association is supporting Sheriff Rivera and questions if UPD's detractors want the duties of sheriff without the supervision of one.
No one thought we would end up in this situation, but here we are. We agree with Sheriff Rivera that supporting the substitute bill is the best interest of the community and her employees.
Midvale's mayor, who chairs the Unified Police Department's board, was taken by surprise by the sheriff's decision.
This is going to have really significant impacts to public safety. It's going to have impacts to officer morale. And so these are all issues that if this passes, we are going to have to work through over the next 2 years.
If the bill passes the legislature, the agency will be dissolved and communities will have to pick a new path.
If they want to have the sheriff provide policing services, they can do that. If they want to have their own police force, they can do that. If they want to contract with another city's police force to provide policing services in their city, they can do that. It really comes down to empowering the cities to whatever's best for their community.
While the sheriff says she believes in the UPD model, she envisions a future agency that's different.
I see something different because we all came together and created it.
Now that bill will be heard in a committee on Wednesday morning. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A Utah woman has been sentenced to 3 years of probation for entering the U.S. Capitol during the January 6th riot. 59-year-old Susan Manwaring must serve the first 30 days of that sentence on home detention. Prosecutors had asked for 14 days in jail, but a judge in Washington said incarceration was not called for. Manwaring and her son, Landon Manwaring, traveled together to Washington for the Stop the Steal rally. Mother and son both pleaded guilty to the same nonviolent misdemeanor. But Landon Manwaring received 30 days in jail, mostly due to having a prior criminal record. In all, 12 Utahns have been charged with crimes related to the Capitol riot. 8 have pleaded guilty. The rest are awaiting trial.
Did the mother of Brian Laundrie write a letter offering him a shovel to bury Gabby Petito's body after her death? An attorney for the Petito family made that bombshell claim to a Florida judge today. The Petitos are suing the Laundries for emotional distress in relation to Gabby's death in Wyoming during a road trip in 2021. Brian and Gabby got into a domestic dispute in Moab shortly before her death. The FBI says before dying by suicide, Brian wrote in a notebook he was responsible for her death. Now, the lawyer for Petito's parents says he saw the letter from Brian's mother at an FBI regional office and that it said, quote, burn after reading. A defense attorney for Laundrie's parents said the letter is irrelevant to the lawsuit and they shouldn't have to produce it. The case is set for trial in August.
3 more days until official events begin for the NBA All-Star Weekend in Salt Lake City. This is time-lapse video from the Utah Jazz. It shows the court at Vivint Arena being transformed for the game.
Oh, preparations are underway. You know, floods of people will be coming to Salt Lake City to see the NBA's greatest players step onto that court we just saw being built.
Fox 13 News reporter Lucy Nelson spoke with Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall and Police Chief Mike Brown today about public safety concerns this weekend.
Could go one of two ways.
Anticipation brewing on the streets of downtown Salt Lake.
We could either have a huge, great time here in Salt Lake and support our local businesses, or, 100,000 people, that's, anything could go wrong.
Utahns have mixed emotions for what NBA All-Star Weekend means for them as locals.
Bringing more people into a community, there's probably always going to be safety concerns for people coming in.
When it comes to preparing to keep the public safe this weekend, Salt Lake City Police Chief Mike Brown says they've been working behind the scenes for a year now, getting ready for the event.
Please understand, there's going to be some disruptions, make no mistake, to the normal way of life for all of us, especially those who are living and working near Vivint Arena.
I asked Chief Brown what his advice to business owners, those living near the arena, and anyone attending the event would be. He says, if you see something, say something.
Although we will have extra officers on the ground, We need everyone in our community to help us. Community safety starts right there with our community. The people who live and work and visit downtown.
He and Mayor Aaron Mendenhall say a big concern is traffic and road closures, encouraging people to use the free UTA track service offered this week.
If you're going to try to drive downtown, think twice. Get on tracks, take a bus. Don't try to drive downtown. We had 26 people involved in auto pedestrian fatalities last year, or auto fatalities.
For now, people like Emily Gates trust that the city is prepared and ready to welcome visitors to show off what Salt Lake has to offer.
I think overall, as long as, we're prepared for it, I think it'll be a great weekend, and I think it'll be fun for everyone.
In Salt Lake City, Lucy Nelson, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, the Gateway right now getting ready for the festivities. Several events will be free and open to the public. There will be pop-ups and block parties happening all throughout the week, but take note of some changes to the hours.
All of the Gateway restaurants will be open. There are a couple restaurants that do have private parties, so please go to atthegateway.com just to get updated hours and the schedule.
Well, I'm kind of interested about those private parties. I'm sure it's going to be pretty swanky. This Friday and Saturday, there will be an event featuring amateur and professional snowboarders competing for a big prize. That's what they were setting up, the big rail jam ramp there. That event is free. It's open to the public if you're interested.
AT&T is the main sponsor of the NBA All-Star Game, and they, along with the NBA and Human IT, gave back to local high school students in a big way today. They gave away more than 300 laptops at West High School this afternoon to families that don't have digital devices in their homes. This will be a big help to students looking to get ahead in the classroom.
I sat up in front and listened as people were talking about this donation that's going to happen. I saw parents with tears in their eyes, heads nodding, and just the gratitude that they have, that their kids are going to have these opportunities and going to be able to make something of their futures that they would not be able to without the help of these great partners.
NBA legend and former Utah Jazz player Boris Diaw was at today's event to help distribute the computers.
You can find information about All-Star Weekend events, also the preparations underway now, and full coverage once things kick off on our website. Just go to fox13now.com, click on the All-Star Weekend tab right at the top of the page.
Switching gears now, the murder of a 17-year-old Salt Lake City boy is deeply affecting the Boys and Girls Club. We'll show you how.
And we've had some snow today, especially in southern Utah, and even some snow squalls and flurries in the north. Here's a picture earlier today from a snow squall that was in Salt Lake County. Coming up, we'll talk about our advisories, and we even have some windy conditions in the forecast.
Salt Lake police have not yet released the identity of the 17-year-old who was shot and killed allegedly by a 14-year-old on Saturday night. But Fox 13 News has confirmed he was an active participant at Salt Lake Boys and Girls Club.
Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule visited the club today and looks at how youth gun violence is shaking the community.
We're all hurting right now. Boys and Girls Club is a getaway from the streets and violence for many kids and teens.
We know the 3 o'clock to 7 o'clock hours are the most at-risk times for youth. They're more likely to be victims of abuse. They're more likely to be involved in risky behavior.
On Saturday night, they lost one of their own when he was shot and killed by a 14-year-old only a couple miles away.
This is their second home. We are their family, and so when we lose one, it hurts us all. Our staff are grieving, our kids and our teens and friends and family are grieving and hurting, and so we're trying to come together to provide resources and tools for them to cope.
The CDC says firearms are the #1 cause of death for children in the United States. Amanda Ree Hughes, president and CEO of Boys and Girls Club Greater Salt Lake, says investing in kids and teens can help reduce violence among youth.
I think it's really important that we focus on mental well-being education, prevention, and positive, safe places for kids to congregate, providing good alternatives for them to spend their out-of-school time.
While club kids and staff are remembering the victim, there are still so many unknowns about what led up to the shooting.
Who they are as a person, their smile, their laugh, and whenever we lose somebody close to us, we want to remember those positive moments. We definitely take that and hold that in our heart.
I reached out to the Salt Lake City Police Department to ask where the 14-year-old may have gotten the gun. They said no further information will be released at this time. We will keep continuing to follow this story on air and online. In Salt Lake City, I'm Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
It is a love story that spans generations and centers on Bryce Canyon. We are going to share this Valentine's Day saga.
The University of Utah will host a number of events during NBA's All-Star Weekend. Does Craig Smith like that? He'll tell us coming up in sports. And the Jazz will be well represented on All-Star Saturday. 4 players will be participating in events.
A love story that spans generations and sparked a new one, all thanks to one Utah gem. Decades after 2 people met at Bryce Canyon and built a life together, their granddaughter had a milestone moment, and that's where her story begins.
Fox 13 News reporter Maithili Gubi spoke with the Orton family about these love stories and found out what Bryce Canyon means to them.
Well, where do I start?
A love story that began in 1959 at Bryce Canyon.
I had been hired by the Utah Parks Company to work down at Bryce Canyon.
That's when Elva met Steve.
And we fell madly in love all summer.
Through going to school together at BYU.
We would meet each other between classes and study together. Just had a wonderful romance.
And 2 years apart when Steve was on a mission trip in Australia.
I promised him that I would wait for him, that my heart belonged to him forever.
Then reuniting where their story began.
Fulfill our dream of meeting at Bryce Canyon. We pulled up and I could see him standing on the porch right where we said we were going to meet.
Elva and Steve got married on September 22nd, 1962.
Pretty veil. You made that veil, right?
Yes. We knew it would be for eternity.
On the same day, 60 years later, their love inspired another story.
Bryce Canyon is just like the most romantic place in the world in my brain because that's where my grandparents met. So I'm like, there must be something magical going on down there.
Well, you're a beautiful couple.
I think so.
Garrett got down on one knee for Steve and Elva's granddaughter, Paige.
Most romantic proposal that I ever could have asked for.
And it was pretty early on in the time that I knew Paige that I saw the picture of Elva and Steve, and she mentioned how it was her kind of goal to recreate that one day.
She had noticed the love in her grandparents. We adored each other every day of our lives.
Elva's recipe for a marriage like theirs.
To always do more for the other person than you expected them to do for you.
Steve passed away in 2017, but Elva compiled all their memories outlining their love story in a binder to hold on to forever.
I put this whole story together. It's got pictures of Bryce Canyon.
For me, I don't think there's anyone in my life that I saw being more in love than my grandparents.
This world would be a wonderful place if every couple had a romantic, wonderful marriage as Steve and I had.
Paige and Garrett are planning a wedding in a couple months, and they hope to take their future kids to Bryce Canyon someday and show them where their great-grandparents fell in love and where their parents got engaged. The makings of some beautiful love stories. In studio, I am Maithili Gubi, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Oh, what a great story. I love it. You get all teared up when you hear all that. That's good stuff. All right, Oquirrh Mountain camera tonight shows that we still got some snow flurries out there. And there was some snow earlier today. Alta was the big winner with 6 inches of snow. And then we had around 4 inches of snow in Holiday and places in southern Utah. Hilldale had about 5 inches and Kanab about 4 inches of snow as well. Now it's 27 degrees here in Salt Lake, 10 up at Alta and 5 in Bear River. It is going to be pretty cold tonight in Logan, single digits tonight, but not as cold as just a couple of weeks ago. 31 31 here in St. George and 28 in Page. And we still have that winter weather advisory for some of our southern Utah counties, expecting about another 3 to 4 inches of snow throughout the morning and the day tomorrow. And that's already on top of frozen roads, which were treacherous earlier today. And we also have windy conditions as well. We've got a wind advisory for Salt Lake County, and that is for tonight from the National Weather Service in the overnight. And you can see in the wind forecast these contours here in that 34 to 40 miles per hour range. And then tomorrow, we still kick it with a lot of wind throughout the afternoon. So we'll call it downright breezy tomorrow afternoon. And that could blow around some of that snow, especially along that I-15 area tomorrow. The satellite and radar picture shows some of the boundary that moved through earlier has weakened a little bit, but it should kick back up again tomorrow afternoon. Big area of low pressure twisting and turning around. And with that, the cold air has just been behind it. So that is cold air moving in, and it will still be here as we go into tomorrow. So we'll still have that cold air, and high pressure won't come back until about Thursday. So our forecasted snow totals again around that 3 to 6 inch range. 18 degrees overnight in Salt Lake, a few stray flurries tonight, and then tomorrow morning the skies should begin to clear in the afternoon. Only getting up to 30 degrees in Salt Lake City. In southern Utah, we've got temperatures here around 45 to 50 degrees, and then in northern Utah, we've got a couple of cold mornings in the 20s, and then we'll be back to the hazy conditions starting on about Friday.
Well, the participants for the events on NBA All-Star Saturday night were announced today, and the Jazz will have 4 players competing at Vivint Arena. Jazz All-Star Lauri Markkanen is in the three-point contest. He made 164 three-pointers so far this season, while shooting 41% from behind the arc. He'll be joined by former Weber State star Damian Lillard of Portland, Boston's Jason Tatum, Sacramento's Kevin Huerter, Miami's Tyler Hero, Indiana's Tyrese Halliburton, and Buddy Hield from Portland, and as well as Anthony Simmons from Portland. There will be 3 teams in the Skills Challenge. Jordan Clarkson, Colin Sexton, and Walker Kessler will be Team Utah Jazz. 3 teams. The other team is the team at the Tecumpo with brothers Giannis, Thynas and Milwaukee from Milwaukee, and Alex from the G League, and the rookie team of Orlando's Paolo Banchero, Houston's Jabari Smith Jr., and Detroit's Jaden Ivey. And the participants of the Slam Dunk Contest are New York's Jericho Sims, Philadelphia's Mac McClung, and Terry Murphy from New Orleans, and Kenyon Martin from Houston. Should be a great night. The University of Utah will host several NBA All-Star events this week, and while the Utes will be in Arizona starting tomorrow for 2 big games, starting with 8th-ranked Arizona on Thursday, head coach Craig Smith says he's a big fan of NBA All-Star games coming to Salt Lake City and using the Utes facilities.
I think this is amazing for our university. I think it's outstanding for our athletic department. I think it's outstanding for the city of Salt Lake. And it's great for our state. It puts the spotlight on this state and our community, and certainly the University of Utah, and for all these all-stars to come in and do events in the Huntsman Center and in our practice facility, puts a spotlight on it, and we have an amazing place. What a great event for us to be able to host in every way, shape, and form.
Utah State played at home against Air Force. Pick it up in the first half. Sean Bairstow drives right to the rim, throws it down. He finished with 11 points. The Aggies led it by 8 at the break. Max Shulga had a big game for the Aggies. Deep 3 near the logo. That's good. It put Utah State up by 10. The Aggies then go inside to Trevin Dorius. Throws it down, 2 of his 17 points. Back to Shulga. Another big game for him. 3 is good. He was 5 of 8 from long range, scored a career-high 29 points. Here's one more at Bairstow Jam. Utah State won at 80-65. They're 20-7. Nice crowd, nice win for Utes at Aggies tonight.
When you did those skills challenge teams, I didn't know Giannis had 2 other brothers, one in the NBA and the other in the G League. Did you know that?
No, I had no idea.
They're keeping it in the family. Oh, that's pretty cool. I'm excited for Team Jazz, Team Utah.
They pull out a win. We'll see. For the home crowd, I guess.
That makes it fun.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff.
We'll be right back. Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
Quick Cast is next.